The sun peeked over the mountains. It cast a golden glow on Blue Horizon Ranch. The air was crisp and clean. Birds chirped their morning songs. The ranch came to life slowly but surely. Horses nickered in their stalls. Cattle lowed in the distant fields. The smell of fresh coffee wafted from the main house. It was a picture of serenity. But underneath, tension simmered. Blue Horizon wasn't just any ranch. It was special. Rolling hills stretched as far as the eye could see. Lush green pastures were dotted with wildflowers. A crystal-clear stream cut through the property. It was a slice of heaven on earth. But even paradise has its troubles. For Jett and Jennifer, owners of Blue Horizon, this morning was different. They knew the peace wouldn't last. A storm was coming, and they had to be ready. Jett stood on the porch, coffee in hand. His eyes scanned the horizon. Jennifer joined him, her presence a comfort. They didn't need words. Their bond was unbreakable. Jennifer Johnson as Jennifer. "Ready for this?" Jett asked, his voice low and determined. Jennifer nodded, her jaw set. They'd faced challenges before, but this was different. Virelli was a real threat. Jennifer squeezed Jett's hand. "Jennifer Johnson as Jennifer. We've built this together. We'll defend it together." Her words were soft but steel-edged. Jett felt a surge of pride. This was why he loved her. They finished their coffee in silence. The day ahead would be long, but they were ready. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with. Blue Horizon was their home, and they'd fight for it. The Bennetts lived on the neighboring ranch. They were old friends. Jett and Jennifer headed there first. They needed all the support they could get. Sam and Clara Bennett welcomed them with open arms. Sam Bennett, as Tom. "We heard about Virelli," Tom said. His face was grim. Clara Bennett, as Sarah. "What can we do?" Sarah asked, concern in her eyes. The Bennetts were good people, salt of the earth. Jett explained the situation. Virelli wanted their land. He'd stop at nothing to get it. The Bennetts listened intently. Their support was unwavering. Sam Bennett, as Tom. "We're with you," Tom declared. Sarah nodded in agreement. As they left, Jennifer felt a weight lift. They weren't alone in this fight. The Bennetts were just the beginning. There were more allies to gather. The community was strong. Together, they stood a chance. The Granger Ranch was their next stop. Will Granger was known for his toughness, but he was fair. His support would be crucial. Will met them at the gate. His weathered face showed no emotion. Will Granger as Will. "Heard you're having trouble," he said gruffly. Jett nodded. "Jett Johnson as Jett. Virelli," he replied. Will's eyes narrowed. He knew the name. They walked the fence line as they talked. Will listened more than he spoke, but his silence wasn't indifference. He was weighing every word. Every detail mattered to Will Granger. Finally, Will stopped. He looked Jett in the eye. "Will Granger as Will. You've always been straight with me. I'll stand with you." His words were few, but they meant everything. Another ally secured. The tide was turning. The town saloon was their next destination. Jake Harrison would be there. He always was. Jake knew everything that happened in town. His information could be vital. The saloon was dim and smoky. Jake sat in his usual corner. His eyes lit up when he saw Jett and Jennifer.
"About time you two showed up," he said. His voice was raspy from years of whiskey. Jake leaned in close. "Virelli's been asking questions," he whispered, "trying to find your weak spots."
Jett's jaw clenched. Jennifer's eyes flashed with anger. But this was good. Knowledge was power. They left the saloon with renewed determination. Jake's information was gold. They knew Virelli's next move. Now they could plan. The fight was far from over, but they were one step ahead. Back at Blue Horizon, Sheriff Carter was waiting. His face was grave. This wasn't a social call. Something was wrong.
Virelli's men were spotted near the north pasture, Carter said. His hand rested on his gun. "They're getting bolder."
Jett and Jennifer exchanged glances. This was escalating faster than they'd thought.
Carter continued, his voice low. "I can't be everywhere at once," he said. "You need to be prepared."
The warning was clear. Law enforcement had limits. They'd have to rely on themselves and their allies. As Carter drove away, dust billowing behind him, Jett and Jennifer stood united. The sheriff's warning was sobering, but it also strengthened their resolve. They'd faced tough times before. This was just another challenge to overcome. Word spread fast in ranch country. By sundown, trucks started arriving at Blue Horizon. The Bennetts, the Grangers, other neighboring ranchers. They came without being asked. Jett and Jennifer greeted each arrival. Handshakes were firm, nods were determined. These were people of few words. But their presence spoke volumes. They were here to stand together. The main barn became a war room. Maps were spread out. Strategies were discussed. Everyone had a role to play. The community was mobilizing. Virelli had underestimated them. As night fell, a sense of unity filled the air. These weren't just neighbors anymore. They were an army ready to defend their way of life. Virelli might have money and thugs, but he didn't have this. The next morning brought news. Virelli's men had been seen again, this time closer to the ranch house. The threat was no longer abstract. It was real and immediate.
We all know why we're here. This isn't just about Blue Horizon, it's about all of us.
Nods of agreement rippled through the crowd. Jennifer stepped forward.
We've lived here for generations. We've weathered storms before. This is no different.
Her words sparked a fire in everyone's eyes. The atmosphere was charged. People moved with purpose. Fences were reinforced. Lookout points were established. Blue Horizon was transforming. From a peaceful ranch to a fortress, they were ready for whatever came next. As preparations continued, something beautiful emerged. The spirit of the community shone through. Everyone pitched in. No job was too small or too big. Women from neighboring ranches arrived with food. Children helped where they could, carrying messages, fetching tools. Even the oldest members of the community found ways to contribute. Their wisdom was invaluable. Jett watched it all with a lump in his throat. This was more than he'd ever hoped for. Jennifer stood beside him, her eyes shining.
Look at them. This is what Virelli doesn't understand.
It was true. Virelli saw land and profits, but he missed the heart of it all, the people, the community, the bonds that tied them all together. That was the real strength of Blue Horizon. As the sun began to set, final preparations were made. Jett gathered everyone for one last meeting. The atmosphere was tense but determined. This was it. The moment of truth was approaching.
We don't know exactly when Virelli will make his move, but we'll be ready.
He outlined the plan one last time. Everyone listened intently. There was no room for error. Jennifer spoke next.
Remember why we're doing this. We're fighting for our homes, our way of life.
Her words struck a chord. Determination hardened on every face. As night fell, everyone took their positions. The ranch was quiet, too quiet. But underneath the silence, a fierce resolve burned. They were ranchers, they were fighters, and they were ready for whatever came their way. Dawn broke over Blue Horizon, another day, but not just any day. It could be the day that changed everything. Jett and Jennifer stood on the porch watching the sunrise.
No matter what happens, we face this together. That's all that matters.
Their hands intertwined, a gesture of love and unity. The ranch came to life around them. People emerged from barns and bunkhouses. There was tension in the air, but also hope. They had each other. They had their community. That was their strength. As the new day dawned, one thing was clear. Whatever Virelli threw at them, they would face it. Together, united. This wasn't just about land anymore. It was about standing up for what's right. And at Blue Horizon Ranch, that's exactly what they intended to do.